Well, guys, I'm excited about this conversation today. There's been a lot of discussion, Morgan, about the grain, and we always, are referring back to the program you guys have and what you guys are working on. There are a couple questions that came up in our conversation yesterday that I'd like to jump on or kind of give Dr. Doubleday a chance to ask them or address some of them before maybe we jump in. But we'll give it a couple more minutes. Joanne, do you have anything? I guess we'll give about maybe 5 more minutes before we get started, or a couple more minutes before we get started, just so that we make sure everybody has a chance to get logged in. Hi, Seth. It's good to see you as well. Kyle, good to see you.
Good to see you.
How are things going for you?
Good, staying busy.
Always. Good, good. We sent over, I'll real quick touch on this, maybe Joanne, if you want to, but we sent out a link. Another link will go out again in the middle of this week to explain all the details about the NOCO banquet and how we're involved and some of the things we're doing. And one of the things that we're doing is sponsoring the awards banquet. And we sent out a link to make sure everybody nominates. We've gotten quite a few nominations in, but just want to make sure you guys have an opportunity to nominate companies that are doing things right in the industry. We really focused on awards outside of what we've done previously around the cannabinoid market, or cannabinoid focused, and looked at carbon sequestration and women in agriculture and leadership and things like that. And so before we get started, I invited Morris to come on to give a little bit of an update about how NOCO's going, things to expect, how to get involved. But Morris, for those that don't know you, I'm surprised if anybody doesn't. You guys should. But yeah, I'd love, Morris, if you want to take a couple minutes and share what you're up to. And
all right, well, thanks, Mandy. Appreciate being back on here. Doing a great job as far as getting folks together. But I am Morris. I produce NOCO Hemp Expo. We've got our 8th annual event coming up here at the end of March. I just got back from a walk. I got my Patagonia shirt on. I got my Hempies beanie on. So shout out to those guys who are both involved with NOCO again this year. Like you said, we've got the awards dinner, taking nominations for that. That's a new thing for us. That's pretty exciting. We have also got a hemp pitch that we're doing, and I just posted this on my LinkedIn page that's sponsored by Michael Best. So if you've got a company looking for money, we are going to have like 6 companies that we're going to get chosen to pitch live at the event. We've got business conference, investment forum, farmer symposium, ag tech forum. Geez, we got all kinds of things going on this year. We're really itching to get back to have a good attended hemp show, which hasn't happened since 2019. And yeah, what questions do you have for me, Mandy?
How do people sign up? Where are tickets available? What do tickets look like? We mentioned that we have the awards banquet. It's on Thursday night, is that right? And it's a formal dinner. Tickets are available on the website.
Right. So if you go to the website, and there's a schedule button up at the very top, and on that schedule button, it kind of gives a whole layout of the week. So Wednesday night, we've got a kickoff party, a welcome party at the Crown Plaza, which is in Denver. It's the DIA Convention Center. Thursday night, we've got the awards dinner. Friday night, we've actually got our Colorado Hemp Company 10-year anniversary party. But also on that schedule, there's links to tickets for just getting a expo hall pass or a business conference pass or a platinum pass. All the tickets information is right there on the website.
Awesome. Awesome. Joanne, do you have anything you want to add about the event real quick? And then I know, Morris, you've got to jump and run, but I really appreciate you chiming in. And if anybody has questions, don't hesitate to reach out to him and his team. He's got a great team working for him. Kayla can also help answer questions and direct, help give you some guidance about the booths and membership sales, or sorry, booth and sponsors and stuff like that.
Yeah, we still got booths available. Not a whole lot left. There's a handful. They've been going pretty quick. People were a bit still sketchy coming out of the holidays and Omicron, and the way things look right now, they've just removed all the mask mandates and vax mandates in Colorado, or at least in Denver and the area that we're at. So to me, it looks like things are getting back to normal over the course of the coming months. And I hope that's the case for our world, because we need to kind of get back onto a normalcy type situation, because it's been a rough go for a lot of folks the last couple of years, and we're ready to get the hemp industry rolling back again.
Awesome. Well, thank you for all that you're doing also. Joanne, do you have anything you want to add before we let Mo go?
I just want to say thank you, Morris. We're really excited to, participate at NOCO this year, but also to be sponsoring the Awards of Excellence. So we're really looking forward to that. We're excited about our booth, and I can share some links here with everybody soon. But if you want me to share your investor pitch link, if people are interested, I could share that as well.
Yeah, please do that. And I actually just posted that on my LinkedIn personal page.
Okay.
And if people want to go click on that and apply, happy to showcase a lot of cool companies this year. There's people have been hard at work the last few years doing stuff underneath the radar, and they're getting ready to come out and show the world what they're doing. So we're excited.
Great.
Awesome. Well, we're excited to be there. I fly in a little bit early. We've got lots of cool things going. So I hope to see all of you there. Please come to the NOCO, to the awards banquet. It's going to be really exciting. We have lots of awesome things planned. So thanks.
And I'll be sharing a link for the nominations. So make sure you get your nominations in. Your voice matters. It's going to be you folks, everybody that's in the industry that participates, who is deciding the winners. So please make sure you get those nominations in. It's really important to make sure that we get the right people acknowledged. So keep those coming in.
Awesome. Okay, so without further ado, we want to encourage everybody, please support GHA with your membership. If you have questions about membership, please reach out to Joanne. Joanne and Kayla are incredibly well connected. They're awesome supports to our team. So please reach out. Kayla, I saw your camera's off, so I won't call on you to chat, but if you do decide you want to chime in, please feel free.
I'm having some connection issues. I think it's actually better now, but I'll leave my camera off just to be on the safe side. But yeah, I did want to say too, we are selling tables for that awards dinner for anybody who wants to attend. And you can either purchase an entire table, a half a table, or individual tickets. We tried to make it accessible for everybody. Like Mandi mentioned, it does come with a seated plated dinner with the cost of that ticket. So make sure that if you want your company represented, the tables are going pretty quickly and we have limited capacity seating. So I just wanted to make sure that people know that that is an option to purchase.
Perfect. Okay, so without further ado, Morgan, I'll turn it over to you. I encourage everybody that if you have questions to please chime in. You can either raise your hand or jump in with questions. I know that there were quite a few yesterday that came up, mainly focused around what is the time frame to bring a market or to open the market for the food or for the grain, especially for animal feed. So I'll leave it there, Morgan, if you want to kind of talk about what you're doing and who you are, and then we'll chime in.
Okay. Well, I will preface that I had not prepared in any way, shape, or form. So give me a little bit of grace if I don't answer anyone's questions right off. But for those of you who don't know me, my name is Morgan Tweet. I'm one of the co-founders of IND Hemp with my dad, Ken Elliott, and I'm our chief operating officer. So I reside here in Fort Benton, Montana. It's in north central Montana, kind of part of the Golden Triangle. It's a really productive area, mostly wheat and barley. And so we came into the business in 2018. Our first year contracting was 2019. We started with an oilseeds facility, which we opened up in the beginning of 2020, right before COVID hit. So we used the rest of 2020 to kind of add some equipment and infrastructure, and that's really when our pathway to the fiber end of the business really opened up as well. We always knew we wanted to be in fiber just because a lot of our growers who grew grain for us, their number one thing was like, well, what the heck do you want me to do with this straw that's left in the field? And so we always knew we were going to be a part of it. And then just doors of opportunity opened for us. And now we spent most of 2021 heavily investing in building a greenfield site here in Fort Benton. So we have a campus is what we like to call it, where we process the oilseed at our oilseed plant, and then we process the straw at the fiber facility. And so we just finished construction the end of last year and started commissioning the first of this year. Of course, with some of the supply chain issues that the global supply network has had and logistics in general, we are a little bit behind schedule, but pretty optimistic with what we've been doing. We were running through a couple different lots yesterday, and guys are grabbing samples for me. So we're definitely still in the commissioning phase of figuring out, the kinks and, just what levers we can manipulate within our infrastructure. Still trying to get quality specs dialed in, been discussing with a lot of customers what their needs are. So it's a really exciting time for us at IND Hemp. We're already looking at some improvements we want to make at our oilseed plant to increase capacity and increase efficiencies. So it feels like a never ending cycle of, break it, fix it, repeat. So we definitely have learned, I like to tell people we're part of the bloody tip of the spear. And hopefully anyone who does know us or has interacted with anyone at IND Hemp, you get the message, we're an open book. We invite anyone to come up here to check it out. We want to be as collaborative as possible. I'm always a big advocate that, this hemp industry is a really big pie in the sky and there's enough for all of us. And I'm also a big advocate for identifying where we all have a place in the supply chain. For a long time, everyone talked about being fully vertically integrated, and for some things that works, but especially on the grain and fiber side, that's really challenging because it's a very large supply chain that you're trying to be fully integrated into. And so where I kind of try to talk to people in the industry and other processors is, there's so much that we have to accomplish. And if we all try to do all of it, it's gonna be a long time before we get there. But if we kind of divide and conquer and identify like who does what our strengths and our weaknesses are, and we kind of figure out where the baton toss kind of happens, I feel like collectively the industry will make more inroads. So I'm always open for conversations of that. We're big into partnerships, and hopefully Mandi can advocate for that. We're supportive of different trials and research opportunities. So definitely excited to hear today what questions people have, and maybe we can make some good interactions and connections. So
awesome. Dr. Doubleday, do you want to speak to your questions you had yesterday? I know you're driving, so apologize. I don't know if you have anything specific you want to talk to Morgan about.
Great to be back 2 days.
Maybe.
Amazing. So again, my question about is the main market in America. I have tri-crop farm, just simple.
Okay, I don't know if maybe without your camera on, you want to try to ask your question again. It was really broken up.
Can you hear me?
I did for just a second. It broke up for quite a bit.
I'm driving out to the farm right now. So, but when will the United States grain market open up to feed grain to animals used for human consumption? I can go to HEB and Whole Foods and buy hemp grain for human consumption today, but I can't feed it to my cattle.
You're speaking Morgan's language right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Bill, we are definitely kindred spirits here, my friend. For another thing, I guess to preface to you is, for those of you who don't know, I am the interim executive director right now for the Hemp Coalition, which is a great organization to, with a very simple mission, like Bill talked about, is trying to gain federal approval. So for those of you that don't know, feed is actually more heavily regulated than food products. So like Bill said, you and I can go into the grocery store, we can buy a bag of hemp parts, we can purchase whatever we want for our protein shakes or whatever, but I legally can't feed it to my chickens or my dog or my horses. So without going into too much detail, because that's a pretty big can of worms to open. So if you guys are interested, please reach out to me about on the Hemp Coalition, and I'll get you integrated and part of these committees. But there's essentially two different pathways. One is a state legislative pathway, which we have done here in Montana. There is concern about human consumption products, so animals that are going to enter the human food supply chain. FDA CVM is very concerned about cannabinoid limits. Quite frankly, until there is a designated daily limit of cannabinoids for human consumption, we are going to continue to get pushback on that. The fear of the unknown, and unfortunately products that we know organically don't produce cannabinoid compounds, like the grain and the stock, are still regulated under the same lens of flour material. So what we've done in Montana, and if anyone wants to try to do something similar in their state, we'll definitely help you do it. We went to our Department of Ag and we said, hey, all of these other animals that aren't entering the human food supply chain should be open to the market. let's create some pathways for some cash flow, for some revenue. So pets, especially pets, and we specifically call that horses because here in Montana, horses are considered livestock. But that's a huge market in itself. And I think that honestly, that's the larger cash flow opportunity as well. When we talk about specialty products that hemp, has a really good niche in until we get to economies of scale. And so we went a state legislative pathway. The other opportunity which Hemp Bee Coalition is pursuing and it has the broader impact is a process through AAFCO, which is the American Animal Feed Control Offices or officials. And they meet on a biannual basis. You have to submit an application. So HFC submitted an application last year, at the end of 2020, for chickens, specifically laying hens for hemp seed meal. So what's really frustrating for us is that it is very specific what you try to apply for. So I can't just say hemp for livestock. I have to say what a specific ingredient. So in this case, hemp seed meal. And I have to say which specific species I'm targeting. And so it's a really robust product or process. It is unfortunately kind of the necessary evil that we have to prove. I do think there's some congressional work that we can do. I'm a part of a group that is working on some farm bill language. My personal opinion is that until we get some designation between grain and fiber and cannabinoids, every regulator looks at us the same, regardless of the makeup of our material. They are regulated identically. And so I have spent the last 2 years, really beating the drum that, hey, hemp seed meal is a safe product. We don't find cannabinoids in here. And what does FDA tell me? They said, well, look harder. And so we've actually had to go to laboratories and we've had to validate methods at lower LOQs to prove at this point, we're at 1 part per million that we don't see cannabinoids in hemp seed meal. So that's really been kind of a constant hurdle that I've been working on. I wish that there was a simple answer that I would tell you that like, hey, in 6 months it's going to be finished, but it's a larger process than that. The Canadians, for example, are also seeing something similar. Their process with their government is a little bit different. They can do multiple species under multiple ingredients. So they're actually putting in their application, hopefully within the next month. But that should give you kind of a sense that they've been in the market for relatively 20 years, and they're just now getting an ingredient application put forth. So there's a lot of research that still needs to happen. I'm trying to work with several groups to put together kind of a research roundtable. There is money coming into the industry. It's trickling in. That's another thing that farm bill language I think is important for us to look is to ask for research dollars. FDA CBM is not going to change their perception overnight. We have to provide them evidence that they can be confident that the ingredients we're advocating for are safe to eat. They care about the efficacy. So is the ingredient doing what you say it is? In the case of hemp seed meal, is it a good protein source? And then they care about the safety, not just the safety of the target animal, which they care about, but they care about the safety of the human product. So in this case, they care about the eggs and the safety of the eggs to the human consumer. So I know that's kind of a lot of information to digest, and I'd love to talk more with anyone who wants to know more, but it is an uphill battle. We need more money. We need more people who understand the problem, because I'm a huge advocate that this industry is not going to grow until those markets open up.
Absolutely. Okay, so are there any other questions around this specific that anybody would like to address? Tracy, I see your camera's on. I don't know if you have anything you want to talk about specifically.
Not specifically around this, but I have lots of other questions.
Sure. Is it around the grain topic?
Hemp hearts specifically. So more for food, for people, human consumption than animals.
Sure. If you have any specific questions, you're welcome to throw them out there, Morgan. And then I see Christian also has his hand up, but go ahead, Tracy.
Oh, cool. Well, good to see you, Mandy. Thanks for hosting.
Yeah.
And thanks for that update, Morgan. I had a feeling it was still in the process. We've been selling hemp hearts out of Colorado here in New Mexico for the past 5 years, I guess. And yeah, it's a challenge to get insurance. For small scale, we frankly just had to let it lapse just because we can't afford it. It's $4,000 a year because they look at it as a CBD product. It's the same But my question is around organic hemp hearts. And is anybody that you're aware of focused on getting those on the shelf here in the US? You know, it's still Canadian owned. And I know Nutiva went there for a bit. I think they were buying from the same supplier we were. But it appears there's a lack of availability and or farmers that are actually certified organic to be able to make that happen. So I'm curious to know what you know about that and if there's been any progress in that area.
Yes, it's kind of a two-part question you asked there. One of them specifically talking about the supply of organic grain in the US. It is available. You know, we contracted 2 years ago, or 2021, we contracted about 5,000 acres of grain. We honestly get calls from Canadian marketers, you know, they're looking for organic. There is a shortage for sure, as like the North American supply chain of organic grain is definitely short. And right now, like we're entering into one of the most competitive commodity seasons that we've seen to date. Pretty much every other contract that is out, at least here in Montana, is up 20 to 40%. And so that's a really challenging environment to try and entice people to try a new crop. Just to your point, insurance, banking, licensing fees, and then every other crop that's trying to get their acres this year, you know, they're paying 40% more. So it's a huge challenge. And I think that the organic supply, I don't think it's necessarily tapped yet. It's going to be challenging and it's going to be limited. But the value definitely is still there. But then your other question about, is there, you know, US domestic grown hemp hearts on the shelf? You know, that's a bigger economy problem. You know, I think it was Manitoba. I'm not 100% sure all of the sources, but you know, they had the Costco deal. That's the one that they all hear. And then they actually got beat out pricing. I think they came in from like a Romanian company somewhere in Eastern Europe, came in and they undercut them. And so like you can buy organic hemp hearts on the shelf, you know, a 16-ounce bag for like $11.50 a pound or $11.50 a bag, which like our pricing, we can't even pay for the grain for that. It's insane, like how cheap that is. So just for my perspective, you know, I pay $1.15 a pound for organic grain. And so that's like, you know, barely making that cost just to buy the grain. You're not processing it or anything like that. So we have a economies of scale issue here in the US with domestic production. CPG projects on the products on the shelf are also going to be really challenged just because there's such a huge margin take up from just paying for your shelf space. So I encourage, you know, smaller brands, people that we're working with, you know, e-commerce is a really good opportunity to try and generate some cash flow and not having to pay for that shelf space. I think everyone kind of likes the idea of seeing their brand on like on a Trader Joe's shelf or something like that, but they don't realize how much margin they are losing by being on Trader Joe's shelf. So I'm an advocate for people being a little bit more innovative with hemp hearts. You know, right now that's, you know, unfortunately kind of a thing of the past of just putting it in a pretty bag. But there's not many people that are making snacks with it and stuff, or doing one more value added step. And so I think that the bigger opportunity in the food sector is like, what is that next value add we can do? You know, we have a customer that makes a salad dressing and she has hemp hearts, hemp protein, and hemp seed oil in her salad dressings, and she's killed it. She's worked really hard to get there, and but she has sold more material, more hemp ingredients through that salad dressing than she has, you know, just straight in the bag or in the bottle. So I think that's really where the opportunity is.
I'm going to echo that. You know, we've seen a lot of success in the alternative meats also, and some of the, you know, breads or additives being added in. Real quick, Nicole, before I turn it over to you, Christian, I saw your hand was up. I don't know if you still have a question.
Yeah, still have a question. How's everybody
perfect.
doing?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, I'm actually at World Ag Expo. So.
Oh, cool. How's it going real quick? Is it going well?
I'm just walking in, so I'll give you an update later today.
Okay.
Morgan, the question I had was just with the Hemp Feed Coalition and the whole livestock feed conversation, jurisdiction by jurisdiction. Do you see any of the large livestock feed producers coming on board? Are they kind of sitting on the sidelines waiting for you guys to do all the heavy lifting and then they'll step in? Like where's that? Because they can obviously help move the ball if they have a vested interest. if they're thinking about it being more competitive or cannibalizing their markets, then they might be a little slower.
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't really get the interpretation or the impression that they are threatened by hemp. They just need to see it work, and then they also need to be cost competitive. Like that's where livestock is going to be a challenge, is we are a long ways from being cost competitive. Now, there are certain opportunities in niche markets where hemp does have more value and they will pay more for it. Omega-3 is a big one that a lot of people are talking about. You know, there's a global crisis from the fish supply, from aquaculture, of finding alternative feeds, alternative feed supplies that bring that omega-3, because they're trying to reduce, you know, like fish consumption and overfishing in the, you know, overseas. And so they're looking for an alternative, you know, many times plant-based products. So like canola and camelina are two ingredients, two oilseed products that are being evaluated. I think hemp has a real opportunity there. There's a research project going on at Central State University in Ohio. They're evaluating hemp for a fish food product specifically because of the fatty acid profile that hemp brings, as well as the amino acid profile. When we look at protein, there are going to be feed alternatives where people are looking for, you know, a specific amino acid profile, and hemp will have a play there. But 90% of livestock, you know, feedlots and other things, they're just looking at price per pound per percent protein. And when we just look at that equation, hemp has a hard time competing. I do think, you know, many of you probably have heard about Kreider Feeds. They've come online in Pennsylvania with a hemp-fed egg. They partnered with the feed company called Wenger Feed, and they went through a GRAS application to specifically approve their hemp-fed chickens only in the state of Pennsylvania, which is a huge win, right? But unfortunately, they have to stay in this state guideline or jurisdiction. But what that has shown, hopefully to other, you know, other egg companies out there, is, hey, this has a marketable value to it. And so our job as an industry, and quite frankly, my job at the Hemp Coalition, is to try and entice partners to understand that value so that they don't, you know, so when I ask for money, they can see the ROI on that. It's a big ask. You know, Seth Boone on here has been helping us at Pan Exchange, you know, articulating the value. But there's just not enough of us to necessarily like make large impacts. So if you have connections, you know, with some of these producers, I think poultry has a huge opportunity. Like I said, aquaculture has an opportunity. We need to get in front of these people. You know, our industry needs to get outside of the hemp industry to traditional feedlots, to traditional feed manufacturers, because, you know, they will see, you know, when they realize the opportunity, they will see that there is value in donating to the Hemp Coalition or being a part of those research efforts to get those things approved. So I don't think it's they're threatened. I just don't think they understand. And we haven't, as an industry, articulated the value of this ingredient in a format that they can digest.
I think that right there is a key piece that should be talked about so much more, right? Is what is that value that they're actually seeking? And in turn, as I talk to brands, it's a question we ask all the time. What do they need to see in order to take, you know, open their market, or in order for them to start using it? Do you see a lot of concerns still around the stability of the market for input? You know,
yeah, I mean, so one of our board members on HFC is a gentleman, a sales director for Wilbur Ellis. And that's almost like, you know, always a question he brings is like, okay, if one of these feedlots turns on, are we going to suck the industry dry in the first 3 months? You know, because all of these, you know, I work with local ranches around here, and they need to know that they have a supply for at least the calf cow operation for the next 120 days. So if I can't guarantee them that they have the same ingredient for the next 120 days, they don't want to start on that. So that's definitely an issue, you know, like understanding, that's where I think that industry needs to be more focused on where do we make sense and where can we stair step into this. Because if we turn on tomorrow and we've got Tyson chicken people wanting to have a hemp fed chicken, well, Tyson's not going to get enough product, even if we have Canada and the US market participating in it. So we just need to be careful and focused on where we're directing our efforts. Sometimes that, like, you know, very much like the Costco idea or whatnot, we get excited about these like huge opportunities, but at the end of the day, that'll kill us. You know, we'll lose more money trying to meet their pricing to try to get big than if we stay focused and try to like navigate through those opportunities.
There's a couple of comments that are coming in. Nicole, I'm not ignoring you. So I want to be sure to go back to you, but on the input, right? This is kind of goes back to where we're focused on our national seed trials is exactly this reason, the scalability. We keep hearing from buyers and brands that, you know, there's this chicken and egg scenario. We have to figure out what our inputs look like and are scalable. And so I'm going to give credit back to our research team also. And Morgan, I'd love to get more involved, you know, wherever you're at on your research group. There's a couple others. I was up in DC this last week and understand you're working with one of the groups we went to go talk to. So that was pretty cool and exciting to know others, you know, in the consortium. So that's good. But other questions. Nicole, do you have one real quick? And then I saw that Bill's got a question about your equipment.
No, I just had a comment because the question was basically answered. Hello, everyone.
Awesome.
Morgan, that was really great. I'm going to try to get your contact information so I can follow up with you because I have a bunch of farms and a lot of my farms want to grow fiber and we just need a way to, and they want to give it to their animals. They see the viability in the plant, but like you said, just regulating those differentiations between the fiber and the grain and what the cannabinoid levels are is extremely important. But and I also wanted to get the information of the organization that you said you submitted your application for the request to have it grown specifically for your animals.
Yeah, maybe I can share some more information with Mandy that you can send out to everybody. I am going to do a little public service announcement really quick. So to be clear, it is not illegal. It's not legal, right? So this is this lovely gray area that our industry has, quite frankly, thrived in, that we need to understand what those boundaries are. So what is the risk if you fed this ingredient to your chicken or you made a product that you sold on shelves? Well, the risk is that your state Department of Agriculture, who is regulating the feed for livestock, could send you a cease and desist letter. They can't fine you. They can't shut down your business. They will send you a cease and desist letter. We have seen one state who has actively sent out cease and desist letters for hemp ingredients to livestock. And that's the state of California that has asked to remove a product for equine market in California. Now, that's the only one that I know of to my knowledge. Now, I know there's a lot going on, so maybe there's others, but let's just understand the risk here. Like, I don't want to scare anybody. Like, I'm quite frankly one of those people that, like, you know, if the rules don't align with what I want to do, like, I change the rules, and that's where I feel like our industry needs to be. But let's just be clear about what the risk is here. Like, I don't want you guys to be going home and saying like, oh my God, it's illegal to feed my dog a hemp treat. Like, don't do it. Like, it's not what I'm saying, right? Like, the government suddenly has the authority that they want to tell you what you can feed your chicken. Now, whether you agree to that, like, that's your own prerogative. As a business, like, what is the risk to selling a chicken ingredient is that they can tell you to stop doing it. So the problem that I run into and why I haven't, you know, our business hasn't launched a whole bunch of retail brand feeds is because many of these feed manufacturers won't accept the ingredient until it's AFCO approved. So people don't quite understand the risk and they don't want to tolerate the risk. And so they just don't want to touch with it. They don't want to play with it until it's AFCO approved. And so even though I have state legislation that tells me I can feed hemp to my horses in Montana, I have feed mills in Montana that will not accept hemp into their processing facility. So we still have to go through AFCO. We still need to get approval. Like, that is definitely still something that needs to be accomplished. But let's just understand what the risk is here. And I don't want anyone to be afraid of feeding hemp to their animals. So sorry, that was my soapbox.
I like it. Good. Well, and I think that that's a good understanding, right? That we are in this gray area of, and that's really where the uncertainty is and where you get lack of investment that comes in, is we've got to clarify some of this uncertainty. And I know that you guys are working, tirelessly at it and supporting. So thank you very much. Wesley, I saw chimed in and made a comment. Wesley, I don't know if you're available or if you want to say anything, but he's an owner of an equestrian. Thank you. Feed and supply for high performance horses. So maybe offer opportunity. I don't know if you want to chime in, you're more than welcome to, Wesley. And then a question about your equipment. Bill was wondering, had questions, it looks like earlier, wanting to learn more about your fiber, your two lines, your fiber and your oil equipment.
Yeah, so our oilseed facility, we clean raw, dirty seed off the field. And then we either do a dehulling process or we go through a cold press expeller to get refined hemp seed oil and hemp protein. So that's what's happening up on the hill at the oilseed plant. It is food grade, so everything that leaves there is tested for pathogens and aerobic plate count and all the good stuff. We are SQF. We're getting our first audit in March, so we'll be SQF certified here shortly. So that was a really big endeavor that we went through, and we're excited to share that with people. And then on our fiber line, we did invest in a LaRoche decortication system, and so it's a 5 ton an hour line. We're not up to 5 tons yet. We kind of are stair stepping our commissioning. But it starts with a bale breaker, goes through the LaRoche line, separating the two. We do have an auto bagging system, so we should be able to compress, fill, and seal bags, 33-pound bags, 2 and 4 pound bags. So those are typically going to either animal bedding or the hempcrete market. So we will have a consumer-facing brand that we're launching there as well, as fulfilling many orders there. And then the alternative fiber, all of the fiber leaves in a bale. So most of it goes to another value-added processor. We do have an LOI with Hemp Texture. They're actually building a facility in Twin Falls, or just outside of Twin Falls, Idaho. We were there last week chatting with those guys. And so they are installing a non-woven line with the hopes, they're identifying an insulation market, but they should be able to also supply other non-woven markets with their equipment as well. So that's just one of the fiber customers we kind of work with. And then we also do sized herd. So we have about 3 or 4 different SKUs that we'll be filling for sized herds going into composites and other industries as well. So.
I like it. I love that you're working with. We just put together one of our seed trial locations. Will be right near both of you guys.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So we added that last night. Tracy, go ahead.
Yeah, quick question. Just when do you anticipate, and I know it always takes longer and more money, but the consumer brand herd products to be available?
So we're targeting March. We have actually a show that we're going to the same week that NOCO is. So half of our team is kind of going to NOCO, half of us are going to a pet expo. So we'll be launching our consumer facing brand probably at that expo.
And are you able to share any pricing details at this point?
I would if I did, but I don't. I don't know them. I can get them to you. Like you said, the sales team only lets me know enough to be dangerous, but they know, like, if I know too much, then I'll just make more trouble for them.
Yeah. Well, I know lots of people who would be interested. And so I'll follow up and maybe we can connect. So
thank you. Thanks. That's the whole purpose of this. And maybe, Morgan, you want to connect your sales team or share some of your contact information for your different divisions. They have an incredible team, but really this is the whole purpose of why we host these, is to help you guys gain the knowledge, make connections to move the industry forward and support each other. And so I'm really excited to hear or to watch you guys. It really fuels my fire and our teams knowing that this is working. Seth, go ahead. I saw your hands up.
Really just wanted to collect opinions on this. I mean, recently there was announced, I guess 2 different lines that have like a 0% THC variety. And I'm just wondering how you think that would affect the approval process through AFCO and FDA CBM.
So it's a good question. I haven't given that specific line too much thought. So I've been working with Courtney Moran and National Hemp Association, a couple of people. We are going to be putting forth Farm Bill language that is called the Hemp Exemption. And so we actually launched it yesterday. Courtney was at the Ag Expo. So Christian, if you see her there, say hi. So just go check it out. It's hempexemption.com. But basically what we're trying to do is we want federal language that says grain and fiber should not be tested for THC. So Montana, the Montana program here has been the most progressive in how they manage grain and fiber production. And we're really thankful that they've done that. but even their progressive approach under current USDA programs are limited in how they can manage the grain and fiber. And so at the end of the day, you know, some of our fiber crops, which have historically, you know, they're at higher risk to go hot. When you test it post-retting, which I'm a really big advocate for, because I don't harvest material in flowering stage. I harvest a retted stock material. And so the test should be testing what material I am collecting, not the plant in the middle of its season. And, you know, we've been on the phone with Bill Richmond at USDA. We've talked with several departments of ag to get their input, and they agree. They don't want to manage grain and fiber like they manage cannabinoids, but current Farm Bill language does not allow them to do that. And so this hemp exemption is basically saying, you know, you should be able to, with the designation of your license and with a visual inspection, you should be able to manage the grain and fiber sector. So Seth, to your point of a full, you know, a breeding program that's trying to breed out THC, that makes a lot of sense under current regulations. But if I could remove the THC concern entirely, then that's what I should, like, that's what the plant should be able to do. I know seed breeding companies don't like that because that's their opportunity to sell more seed. I'm not against seed breeding companies at all, but let's think about the greater industry opportunity here where we're managing the crops off of the material that's harvested, not the crop in season.
We also have to consider the quality of fiber that's coming off of a 0 THC compared to one that has traditionally produced THC. And what I understand is it's a better fiber quality, but I don't.
Yeah, I mean, we're limiting a plant. We're trying to breed out something that naturally is there because of this regulation when, like you said, we don't know the consequences to that plant if we remove that compound. Like maybe there are consequences to the quality of fiber, to how it grows, to propagation. You know, there's a lot of things where, you know, back to my comment of like, when I don't like the rules, I try to change the rules. And maybe that's a little pompous of a thought, but the industry as a whole, I feel like we should get behind this idea that like, let's regulate the products that we're harvesting. When you're harvesting flower material, you have to be regulated by THC. That's what the DEA and USDA, you know, talked about. So under current programs, I think that's, you know, that's still applicable. But the DEA in the definition of marijuana excluded seed and stock. So why are we now bringing that seed and stock back into question under USDA?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I hope we can get something accomplished as we revisit the Farm Bill. And then we have the next one lining up here. I hope we can get that accomplished. And then also like these 0 THC varieties and these varieties in development, it's going to be a while before these things can be implemented, really.
Yeah.
So hopefully we don't have to use that option, or we don't have to rely on that option.
Well, you know, we worked with a couple of breeding companies that do like corn and wheat and like major commodities. And we just asked the question, like, how much time does it take to take a bred variety and to propagate it up to scale? And they said 6 to 12 years. So like our company won't be around if I have to wait 6 to 12 years to breed out what genetics I need to grow.
Yeah.
I think that that's important also to go back to these and to touch on when we were up in DC this last week, the value that was expressed behind the scalable national seed trials for this purpose around the legislation and being able to identify or separate the grain, the fiber, the grain and fiber from the cannabinoids. Yeah, it's a hot topic for sure. And it's definitely something that GHA works on. And then in addition, being able to gather the existing data to be compiled in one place or a place where it can be used more efficiently.
And you know, reading the notes really quick, you know, Bill said, you know, complying with regulations is how we legitimize, sorry, that's a hard word for me today, but the industry. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I'm not a rule breaker just like by nature, but even when you talk to regulators, like I've been in courthouses, I've been with, you know, our congressmen, our senators, our lobbyists, they don't understand. And it's not their fault, right? We have been trained for 100+ years of prohibition. We don't know this crap. And so when you break it down for them and there's scientific data to show them, like, I don't find THC in the stock. I don't find THC in the seed. And when they start to understand and look at the data, you know, that legitimize, whatever the word is, our industry more than just following the rules, because the rules were created. We only made those decisions off the information we knew at that time. And now we know more information, so we should change the rules to reflect the information we have.
Yeah, definitely. Tracy and then Bruce. And then
Sorry, just one. I mean, I don't think the plant was meant to be isolated, like all of this effort and money and research that we're doing to pick it apart because of our stupid rules. What do you think is going to happen if, I'll say when, marijuana goes federally legal? Like, because I would think that that's a huge game changer in this industry, but I don't know that for sure. I'm just curious to know thoughts.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, and I think it would change the environment. But unfortunately, like what did more damage for our like ingredients when we talk about how do we grow like in the feed market and other things. One of the most challenging things that happened for us was when the DEA recognized Epidiolex with CBD. They're more afraid of CBD than they are of THC because they know what the daily allowable limit is for THC, and so like they can regulate it. They know what limits to incur. CBD is a whole nother game. And so, you know, with Charlotte's Web's application to get CBD, that grass petition, like that was a heavy hit for the industry. And like, I'm not in CBD, so I don't know how to do with that, but like, I really encourage those who are in CBD to like, you know, work and try to collectively come up with more research to like educate them on CBD. You know, I really hope that we can get that perception changed, but you know, just if THC is federally legalized, we're still going to have the challenges with the USDA saying we have a drug compound in our products with CBD.
Yeah, and if I may add, like one of the biggest things in the case of feed is animals don't have a choice in what they eat many of times. So that USDA is always keeping that in mind.
And it's someone's livelihood. We have to remember that that's the big risk too, is if you kill a bunch of cows, like that's someone's livelihood. So it's not just the animal safety, it's someone's, you know, it's someone's business at risk.
Great point, guys. Thank you all very much for chiming in. Just please continue if you guys have anything else you want to add. Bruce, go ahead, sir.
Hi, guys. Question, Morgan and Seth and Mandy. As you guys know, hemp offers a real serious opportunity, hemp stalks at least, to sequester and to avoid CO2, right? And had an interesting conversation with a fellow up at Manitoba Harvest recently, just trying to get a handle on their grain production because they're one of the big ones, and trying to get a feel for what their thought was for what they're going to be doing with their stalks. And we all know that over the years, a lot of the Canadian grain growers were burning their stalks in the field, but now they're looking to see what they can do with them a little bit more. My question is, are you guys looking at a cultivar that would not only be very productive in terms of grain production, but also very productive in terms of stalks as well? So you're really getting a lot more benefit from the stalks, because instead of getting 4 tons per acre, you might get 8 or something like that. Are there folks looking into creating cultivars that will yield not only a lot of grain, but also a lot of stalk? And the guys up Manitoba Harvest said, we're not interested in stock. As a matter of fact, we don't want it to go over 6 feet because we don't have the kind of machinery to harvest it. So, but there's so much opportunity for the stock to address our climate crisis issues, that if we can grow both and we can process growth and we can harvest both efficiently, it would be a good thing. Sorry for the long question.
No, it's a great comment. I definitely think it's on our radar, and I know there are cultivars out there that do really target the dual crop model. And so like we use a variety up here, you know, historically, that grows between 5 and 6 feet tall. Under irrigation, it can even get up to 7 or 8 feet. It does get challenging, the amount of biomass that you have going through your combine. It does make it challenging to harvest. And if you only take like the top third, and then you come back with a swather, the issue is that's hard on the equipment as well, and that's another pass on the field. And so most growers only want to go through one time. And so they'll put their header settings where they're 8 to 12 inches off the ground. They'll put all of the biomass material through the combine. They'll, use their regular combine settings to thresh out the seed. And then the windrow in the back is what they harvest for. In our case, we buy that residual straw from our growers and we process it here at our fiber facility. So the dual crop model has a lot of potential. There's definitely some hiccups that need to be ironed out. Your comment about carbon, that's a big thing that we work on. We've worked with Pan Exchange and others here on the call about how do we quantify that, right? The carbon market is a really exciting opportunity and kind of a buzzword in agronomy and farming right now. Something that hemp has that many crops don't is you can, sequester that carbon into the stock, and then you can make a durable material that, has a long lifespan. And, with corn, they're going into products that, are either carbon and some other things. And so hemp has a unique opportunity with the chance to make those durable products. I do think that either we're going to see the industry continue to focus on, single crops with a byproduct, like, our dual crop it's a grain crop, and then we buy the byproduct. But maybe with, increases or, improvements in harvesting technologies, we'll see that more of these, real dual crops where you have an 8 to 10 foot tall plant, and then you have the top, 24 inches as a cola for seed head. Maybe that can work, but it's challenging for us right now. We've done several seed trials and at large scale, like maybe on 10 acres, it's okay. But when you're talking about 100+ acres, it's very challenging to get growers to agree to something, a cultivar like that.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. For anybody that doesn't know, next month, at the beginning of the month, we have a carbon discussion. Well, Bruce and his team that have calculated the carbon sequestered from soil to end product on a number of different products are going to present on some of the findings that they've come up with and discuss the application they submitted for the drawdown team. So big shout out, congratulations to your team again, Bruce, and I'm really excited, but invite anybody else that's on the call that would like to listen or find out a little bit more about what they found. Please feel free to join us. Any other questions before we sign off? We're at about an hour and I want to be respectful of Morgan's time and everybody else's time. Sarah, do you have any questions or anything specifically you guys are addressing in Kansas? Maybe not. Okay, well, Morgan, anything else you want to chime in before we sign off? How do people get
I appreciate the opportunity to be on here, and I'll send you an email, Mandy, that maybe you can distribute to everyone kind of with those contacts, the Hemp Feed Coalition. I really could use help. I know you guys hear it all the time. It's not just money though, it's people that can help with some of the workload. I have a full-time job plus just running our operations here in Montana. And then I'm trying really hard to do a service to Hemp Feed Coalition because, I'm really passionate about it and I just want to put our best foot forward. So if anyone's interested in participating in that, even like administrative help, I can use it. So
what's the best way to reach you? Sorry, what's the best way to reach you, Morgan?
Yeah, just my email. It's morgan@indhemp.com. And I'll put that in the chat.
Perfect. Okay, same thing. Oh, awesome, Sarah. I see your message. If you do have anything you want to add, please feel free. Other than that, you guys, I really appreciate your time. Again, we're kind of going to echo what Morgan said. We are really pushing memberships and involvement around our seed trials. I'm really confident, even after hearing you today, Morgan, and then our week up in DC, the value of the seed trials and to answer some of the questions, on a scalable, peer-reviewed or data that can be peer-reviewed and withstand this, the peer review. Sorry, I can't talk today. I feel like it's Monday morning and it's not. So I really encourage you guys to get involved. If it's not you and you know somebody else that's doing the work or would be interested, please feel free to share the information. We will also record this. There have been a couple of questions. This is recorded and shared on YouTube. So if anybody had to log off or you want to reshare it or rewatch it, it will be on both YouTube and then transcribed and shared on our Hemp Hallway. For those of you that haven't been on Hemp Hallway, feel free to chime in or get in and look. There's lots and lots of content. I think 400 hours of content are shared there, as well as a crazy amount of white papers and data and things like that. If you're interested in getting involved in any of the committees or groups that GHA is also involved in, a lot are partnered with some of the groups like Morgan asked or mentioned. So feel free to reach out. We're happy to have you. But any other questions before we sign off? Sarah, I see your hands up. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. I'm great. I just want to say, remember that Alaska is part of America, at least still for a little bit. And, you know, Alaska only has 4% of her own food supply. Like, we only grow 4% of our own food supply. So that's really scary in a time where shelves are bare and COVID, you know, keeps people from going to work. So this whole discussion is extremely vital for me to make sure that our hemp industry gets moving forward. One of the things that I'm looking for that I need is infrastructure. So equipment on how to, you know, like I can get my people to grow it, no problem, but getting from that point of growing to, you know, to table, basically from farm to table. So to expand and get a little more information and resources on that would be helpful for me.
I encourage you and invite you to join the GHA processing meetings and groups. We do host and talk about these different pieces all along. And I, especially with the focus, and I say this all the time, I'm not an expert, but we have a number of people within our industry that are. And so understanding your needs helps us craft or create meetings and groups that help answer those questions or connect those dots. So thank you, Sarah. And I'll be sure to send you some links to existing or past meetings that are posted. And then on YouTube, you can also search it, which is really nice.
Okay.
And pull up those different contexts.
Thanks,
for sure.
Morgan.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Morgan, very, very much. I really appreciate your time. I'm looking forward to seeing Ken, and good luck for everybody that's down at the expo, the World Ag Expo. And holler if you guys need anything.